Today I'm bringing a message called Speaking Truth to Circumstance. And it is because it came to me that I had the wonderful invitation and opportunity to write the daily guides in our Science Mind magazine for July this month. So it's been wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. For those of you who aren't aware of it, our Centers for Spiritual Living, of which we're a part of, has a denominational magazine that you can subscribe to. You can get in our store today. They have some copies left. Great articles. On the front this month is Don Jose Ruiz, who's the son of Miguel Ruiz, who wrote the 5 Agreements. And so they have articles, but then every month they have these daily guides, a guide for every single day of the month written by a minister, a practitioner, or somebody. And they have a theme about them, and the theme for this month was speaking truth to circumstance. And then there's a guide every day that has a couple of quotes, one from someone out in the world and one from our founder, Ernest Holmes, a body of a concept. Each daily guide has a theme, and then an affirmation at the end. They're very contemplative, and people use them all over the world. And so I nabbed this one from our store. I will put it back in case someone wants it afterwards. And I wanted to not only highlight the good work of our beautiful magazine, but I really enjoyed writing the guides and found great challenge and inspiration for my own journey in taking on this topic and then trying to break it down into 30 days. So the way that I tried to do it was to have the first week really articulate the basic ideas of our teaching, which I think then we rise up in our ability to speak truth to circumstance. A synonym for circumstance is condition, which I used a lot in the writing and I'll use a lot today. And it's the opportunity to see the conditions, the manifestations, the circumstances in our individual life, as well as the life that we share with other humans on this planet, and stand and speak truth to that rather than continuing to speak untruth. Truth being spiritual truth. Truth being energetic truth that forwards the momentum of the good that we seek to experience versus continuing to speak to the challenge or what we don't like. And this can be very challenging. It can be very discombobulating because we get really invested in what we think is the truth at times. We've got our own truths, the power of our word that has come to us through our life story, each one of us. Our experiences, our relationships, our body, our finances, every realm of life has presented us with experiences and opportunities that we've drawn conclusions about, and then we make up what the truth is about that. I always say every human being has a degree. It's called an MSU, making stuff up. We've all got it. And we do it really well, and we're very committed to our degree. And so the power of our word comes forth as we think a thought routinely, habitually, about what life is all about, or what it means to have a family, or what it means to have a relationship, or what it means to be in our body, or what it means about money, or any area of life. We build these thoughts. We think them habitually. We think them deeply. They sometimes are lodged in our subjective or subconscious mind from experiences we had long ago we don't even remember. Some even say we have soul memory, a soulful intentionality for the experiences we want to have in our life, that all of that thought together, conscious, subjective, deeply the spiritual essence of us, work to create our reality such that the consequences, the circumstances, the conditions reflect that. Our actions that we take, habitual actions, habitual things we talk about and we tell other people about. Well, it's all falling apart. Well, for you, it will all fall apart as long as that's what you keep talking about, right? That's what we teach. That's what we believe. And we get very committed to what we think is the truth, even when it's not serving us, even when it's causing us pain, or we're suffering, or we are frustrated, we'll continue to give lip service to the exact opposite of what we'd rather see. So our teaching comes in and says, that's not going to work. To have the world change, we have to speak truth to the circumstances and conditions and consequences of our thoughts that we're experiencing. We have to speak truth. I was reminded in a class I was teaching recently, and I told the class a story about a woman that I encountered years ago in my church in Arizona. It was in the basics class, the Beyond Limits foundational class that we teach. And she shared with the group that she was not married, and she really wanted to be married, and she couldn't understand why she wasn't married. And when I asked her, well, what do you think that's about? She said, well, I figured it out. There's not a single eligible man in Scottsdale, Arizona. And the whole class kind of was like taken aback. And some of the students tried to present her with an argument that just couldn't be true with the number of people. And she was having none of it. So then I tried to teach her a little bit about principle and what we're talking about here. And if you continue to believe something, and she was having none of it. And I saw how committed she was to her belief. There are no men. Nobody. And I thought to myself, she was so committed to it that a single man could run up naked in front of her going like this, and she wouldn't even see him. She would just be like, there's no single man in Scottsdale. She was absolutely committed. It reminded me of that video that I saw years ago where you can watch it on YouTube where there's some guys playing basketball. And they say, see if you can count how many baskets go in how many balls go in the hoop. And so you're focused on watching this. And meanwhile, a person comes through the game wearing a monkey costume and walks through the game. And then after the video's over, you can say to people, well, how many baskets? And everybody will argue. And then you can say, well, did you see the person in the monkey costume? And people will be flummoxed. What? That's all about focus. It's all about focus. So we can be really focused on how horrible it is and never see the paradise right in front of us. And conversely, we can be focused on how wonderful it is to be alive and the amazing opportunities that are here for us and never be influenced by the negative experiences that might be going on. You choose. Luckily, this woman was able to be influenced by her classmates, the principles we taught, by working with a practitioner prayer partner. And I'm happy to say she's married to a man from Scottsdale, Arizona. Yes, this stuff works. TSW. This stuff works. But it really reminds me that we all have places in our life where we cling to our beliefs. And the question that I will ask, that Dr. Phil asks, is, how's that working for you? At some point, we have to say, I'm not sure that's working for me. I'm not sure that's who I want to be, how I want to live, how I want to feel about life and my fellow human beings, and about what is evolving on this beautiful planet. And in order for change to occur, not only in my experience, but in the big picture, each one of us, I love how Deepak Chopra says, each one of us is like a cell in the body of God. And the question becomes, are you a cell that is broadcasting happy, happy, joy, joy, living my life out, or are you a cancer cell? And it becomes that each one of us has to start taking responsibility for our daily words, actions, thoughts, energy, and shift the narrative of it, which is the basic idea of this teaching, so we begin to shift our experience with the sense of joy and collective experience we're having, and become one who contributes something good to the whole of life. That's the opportunity that is before us. So I've brought 3 of my daily guides today to briefly explore as contributions to this this effort that I'm inviting us into. And so the first one, they all, as I said, I'm bringing some of the quotes, so some of the formatting is here. The first one came out on July 3rd, and it's called Conditions Are Not Cause. Conditions are not cause. And it harkens back to what I've already been talking about. Everything that exists, every bit of life that exists, started out as a thought. Everything. Every condition, every person, everything in your life and my life, it starts out as a thought. Ernest Holmes says to us, realize that behind everything that is seen is the silent cause. There is nothing but mind. And he capitalizes mind in this conversation because he sees the word mind as synonymous for God. So nothing but mind, and nothing moves except as mind moves it in our lives of conditions. We are the cause, and nothing moves except as our mind moves it. So remember, I'm talking about what I said in the beginning. We may not know exactly how it is that things got into our life or how they got into our experience. But what we can know is that somewhere along the way, we had a thought about it, or we nurtured thoughts about it. And we get to work with the things that unfold and understand that the conditions that have occurred, the circumstances in and of themselves, have no ability to show up without a thought to support them, an idea to support them. And so everything starts this way. Even this iPad stand. Somewhere along the way, somebody who was using their iPad said, I don't want to hold my iPad. I don't want to put it on a music stand. I wish I had something that I could just put it in and it would just be really nice and efficient and it would be really helpful and it'd hold it. And then they talked to somebody about it and they drew it up and then they manufactured it and then they reproduced it and then they've been selling them like crazy and we have an iPad stand that's very useful. Everything starts in mind. This stage, this plant, Katie, me. Hi, Katie. Everything up here started out as a thought. Everything does. And so when we want to change a condition, we tend to think if I just could move this condition, if I could just get it to go this, or if I could push it away, or I could. But really where we teach people to start is start with your thought. Start within. Start in that place. This is how individuals, families, cultures, nations, churches, companies, organizations become what they become. It's through the individual and collective thought. We are all a part of the collective thought creation of Mile High Church and what it unfolds to be. It's not just me or Josh or our practitioners or the board. It's all of us together coming here, being a part of it. We are collectively creating and co-creating this beautiful community ongoingly. We're all a part of it. It's all of us together. And we're doing this in our own lives too. And it's important to remember that conditions are not cause. Conditions are the result of the thoughts we've been thinking, of the energy we've been launching. So the affirmation on this one is, beginning with my own mind, I affirm and envision changes to the conditions I choose to change. The next one I'm bringing to you today is from July 7th. Where is God in that? Have you ever felt that? Like, ugh. How could God be an expression of that? And I used quotes from Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who says, we must accept finite disappointments, but we must never lose infinite hope. And Ernest Holmes, who says, no doubt our external evolution is an everlasting process through which we become more aware of life. And so we recognize then that if every thought, every bit of energy is creating the conditions and situations in our life, that we want to change them, we have to speak truth to them. We have to speak about them to change them. But we also have to acknowledge that they are God-informed too. One of the greatest challenges for us is the continued, persistent Ernest Holmes called it superstitious belief that there's some God out there who's giving you lessons or making you have challenges or sending you the exact opposite of what you want just to see how you'll handle it kind of thing. That's the kind of stuff your dad and mom might have done or your grandma, but that's not, I don't think, and we don't believe how God plays in this world. We believe that it is this presence that is shining through every being everywhere, and we all get to use it, and we can use it for our greatest good, and we can use it to continue to affirm our deepest pain. And so one of the examples I used in this writing for this one was a lump of clay, and how I could take a lump of clay and I could form and fashion it into a butterfly or a tree or a sun. Or I could also take that lump of clay and form and fashion it into a rock and have it get hard and throw it through a window and break a window, or throw it at Nene and hit him in the head there and knock him out. I could do all sorts of good with that clay, and I could do all sorts of what we might consider bad or destructive things with the clay. Now, does the clay care? Does the clay say, "Oh, Michelle, don't hit Nene in the head. That's bad. Bad girl"? Doesn't do that. The clay allows me to utilize it however I want to utilize it. Now, I'm not sure if it has self-consciousness, but God, the presence that's shining through all of creation, is much the same way. It so loves us, so imparts itself to us completely and totally that it says, "Oh, my beloved, use me to create paradise, love. Use me to create joy and happiness. Use me to grow and deepen into a greater walk with me. Or use me to continue to talk about how bad it is and how horrible it is and how they over there and how whatever. I'm here for you, however you choose to use me." That is the beauty and the joy of this God presence. And so we can look at everything and say, somewhere along the way, for everything and everyone, even the things we love, like puppies and kitty cats and sunrises and sunsets and coffee and all the good things we love, and all the people we love and approve of, and all the people who are doing things the way we think they should be doing it, and they're doing it right? Oh, there's God in form. Our challenge, true spiritual growth, is, can I do that with the people I don't like? Yeah, can I do that? Yeah, I hear you, Jim. Can I do that with the people I don't approve of? How can I see God present in them? Which leads me to my last one, although I want to share the affirmation for this one before I go on. The affirmation is, I see the expression of the divine in all that exists, and in every moment of my life, God is. But the last one that really I have passion about is, divided we fall. Can I, this ability to speak truth to consequence and circumstance, to know that conditions are not cause, to know that the only way for me to change the condition is to speak truth with a capital T to it, and to know that everything that is expressing is God in form in some way, and to understand that the only way for us to create greater peace and well-being on our planet is through unified consciousness. Divided we fall. Divided, living from a consciousness of separation, leads to an us and them. Leads us to think that there are people we agree with and people we disagree with, which may be true. But there is a way to agree and disagree with someone that continues to promote respect and honor and promote the fact that they are God in form. I just happen to disagree with their perception about life. What happens is we get afraid. And in our fear, we separate ourselves and we fall into divisiveness. And we fall into pain and suffering. The quote I used for this one is Jimmy Carter. President Carter says, "The bond of our common humanity is stronger than the divisiveness of our fears and prejudices." And so this one is a call in my mind to always remember that when it comes to speaking truth to conditions, there are ways to do that continue to keep our unified awareness intact while keeping the unified awareness of other people intact. Some people call it civil dialogue, conversation, understanding that we can work together to weave and build a world that can have great diversity and great peace. I've reminded myself many times, and I remind us once again, that all of the teachers who teach unity and oneness say, and Ernest Holmes was one of them, oneness is not sameness. Our goal is not to get everyone in the world to see things the way we see them. That's not our goal and our intention, as much as we argue about it on social media and other places. That's never going to serve us. That's never going to be the way the human beings will exist on the planet. So why do we keep resisting it? Rather, it would be more powerful for us individually and collectively to be able to stand firmly in what works for us with great love and joy, while being willing to see many sides and see many options, and while being willing to continue to offer respect and honor to people that we vehemently disagree with. That, to me, is the unified consciousness and a person who's living from oneness, how they live. And we may be sitting here thinking it's easy. I have many times pridefully thought, well, I'm there. There's not a lot of people that I completely disagree with like that I criticize and make wrong. But I remember once that I was in a movie theater when I lived in Southern California back in the 90s, and I went to a movie by myself. It was the movie Philadelphia, starring Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington and many other wonderful people. And it was based on a true story of Tom Hanks was a young gay man who had contracted AIDS during the AIDS epidemic. He was a very successful attorney and suddenly was fired from his job and suspected that he was wrongfully terminated just for having this disease. And so he went and tried to find a lawyer. He finally finds a lawyer played by Denzel, and they go about litigating this issue. And there's a point in the movie, I'm crying through the whole movie all by myself. I think I brought a whole box of Kleenex and I went through it or something like that, and I'm sitting there. And Denzel Washington's character says very proudly, well, I don't have a bias about gay people or people with AIDS. Here's where I really have bias: people who are intolerant of other people. And I was like, oh, my pride just fell down. And still today, here's what I struggle with. I struggle loving people who do not love people who want to just love who they want to love. I struggle loving people who do not feel that women should have the right to do whatever and men too, with our bodies. I struggle with people who are intolerant of other faith traditions and can't let people just be free to practice their own faith tradition. I struggle with that, and that's where my work is. It's to understand that I have to find a way to be tolerant, but beyond tolerance. Love and affirm and accept that there will be people who don't see it the way I see it, and that I can continue to live my life and be an ally for any and all groups of diversity that I feel the joy of their self-expression and want to support. And that is how we, I think, will all survive. It will take work. It takes me work every day as I hear the news. Work every day to send love to people I can't understand why they're being so unlovable. It takes great work, but it is the work. It's, I believe, the next frontier of human evolution. And we can get there together if we let go of our fears. The affirmation for this is, I remove my awareness from what divides us and focus on what unites us. I am the living embodiment of the one. And so this week, I'm inviting us all to look at places in our life where we can speak greater truth to circumstance. Conditions are not cause. Recognize that our thoughts about our conditions are our cause. Remember that it's all God. It's in, through, in, and as all, even that which we dislike, and seek to feel and sense oneness with all. In one of our classes, we practice at the very beginning of the class each week, bringing to mind or watching television and doing the practice of seeing people, conditions, and situations in our life and in the collective life with this affirmation: I accept you, I bless you. I accept you, I bless you. And I invite us now to start with that as we pray together. I invite our practitioner prayer partners to join me in this, please, if they would like to stand. And we begin by each of us bringing to mind conditions we might be concerned about in our life or in our world, circumstances or people, and we just extend ourselves from this place of anchoredness and truth and love and light, and quietly within our own being, just spend a moment. I accept you, I bless you. I accept you, I bless you. I accept this, I bless this. It may even be the mirror image of ourselves in the midst of our pain or suffering, or in the midst of not loving ourselves completely, that we look and see and say, I accept you, I bless you. And this practice becomes the mantra that sings itself through our body, our mind, our soul, our essence this week as we go out from this place and continue to weave a life of peace and well-being and love and light and wholeness in this practice of speaking the truth of acceptance and blessedness, of being at peace and trusting life and walking forward and knowing our work in our own heart is fulfilling itself, and we are guided to the fulfillment of greater and greater living for ourselves and for our fellow beings, other humans and animals and plants and trees, and the beauty of this wonderful earth. We stand together in this great truth of acceptance and blessedness and see it and affirm it and accept it. And it transforms us. It anchors us in the true nature of our being, which is God expressing for this power and this presence that God is this mantra unto all beings everywhere, unto all conditions everywhere, while at the same time allowing us to work individually and collectively to shift and mold and create anew. What a joy it is to remember this truth right here and right now, to surrender this up with gratitude into the law that simply says yes and makes it so. We let it be, we let it go, and so it is. Amen.